Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Asset Coach and Tax Strategist. And so today's article is very interesting. I actually didn't know this was going on, which why would we as business owners, as taxpayers, we got our day-to-day lives, whether it's running our businesses or showing up to work and working with customers, clients, partners, family, friends, right? We've got busy lives. And so this is an example of one of those things that has been going down the pipeline through the courts. And we're like this close to seeing non-competes being eliminated from a negotiation of somebody being fired or terminated from employment, and or really probably business dealings in general, business transactions of purchasing another business and putting a non-compete clause in there is in a possibility of being obsolete and or illegal, if you will. So I'm going to share my screen and let's look at this. So this is from NPR. So we know this is a liberal type of media. But at the end of the day, it's still really vital and important information for you and I as we go through this. So US bans non-compete agreements for nearly all jobs. Now, again, like you've heard me say before, if you've been watching any of my any of our episodes, previous episodes, is typically when the government passes a law, okay? And we see this a lot. A lot of times they pass a law or they jam a rule or law into this big 1,000-page book law that is an add-on to something else. And they really don't start implementing that law until 2, 3, or maybe even 4 years later. Why? Because they don't know what the F the law means, right? They just talk out of their butt, they put it on paper, and then it becomes law, right? Now I'm being facetious, but quite honestly, that's what it feels like a lot of times. And then all of a sudden they start implementing it, and we all get up in arms and like, yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing? And they're like, well, this has been on the books for 3 years, 4 years. Well, yeah, but you haven't enforced it. And oh yeah, by the way, it was jammed in the middle of all these pages. Oh yeah, by the way, by the way, by the way, by the way. And this is how politics and lawmaking has been occurring over at least the last decade that I know of. I'm 48. And so at the end of the day, this could have been happening forever. I don't know. I'm not a politician. I'm not in this world. But not until over really the last decade did I start really diving into more, asking more questions, and especially since COVID, since 2020, questioning everything. And this is one of those things where, it's interesting because you've seen some of my episodes about IRS audits, right? We're not going to audit anybody household under 400,000 a year in income. But until we do, they just need the law to pass at a certain level. They're talking about creating some sort of excise tax or too much retirement 401k money tax, that if you have over a certain limit of balance in your 401k, the above limit is going to be taxed, almost like a luxury tax in sports, right? You have this payroll, but anything above that payroll, you're going to be taxed as a luxury tax. But this is something they put in place. This is why in my book, Economic Termites, go into the description, click on the link, buy my book. We talk about economic termites and our fourth termite, but the most dangerous termite is laws and regulations, our politicians changing the rules as we go. And these are examples of what this looks like. So let's go into this article and see, what does this mean? What does this mean that we're banning non-compete agreements for nearly all jobs? Now, all jobs, and it could next say all business transactions, all transactions, all transactions that lead to some sort of employment and income tax. I don't know. Right. So let's go through this. The Federal Trade Commission narrowly voted Tuesday to ban nearly all non-competes, employment agreements that typically prevent workers from joining competing businesses or launching ones of their own. The FTC received more than 26,000 public comments in the months leading up to the vote. Chair Lina M referenced on Tuesday some of the stories she had heard from other workers. Before we dive into these stories, here's the interesting thing. I actually don't think that a non-compete with somebody starting their own business is all that bad. And here's why. If you're an employee and you no longer want to work for somebody, you want to start your own, I think the barriers to entry to running your own business and building your own business is hard enough that if somebody goes through that and they succeed and excel, they deserve to be a business owner and they deserve to be competition, right? I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, that's the reality. And why do we punish competition? Right now, if you have a worker that's going and they're going to take trade secrets, or they've been with somebody for 15 years and they're going to go to the competitor because the competitor is going to pay them, $1 more an hour or whatever. Well, then, yeah, I think, that's a bit crummy. But at the same time, we don't know the story, right? We don't know the story how the current owner and boss treats that employee for the past years or whatever. Was there a rift in the relationship? Does the employee not agree with the business tactics that the business owner has been doing over the last few years, and they finally said enough is enough, right? There's all these variables that we don't know about this. So you can do if, then, this, if, could, we, be it, right? And have this web, so to speak, or this tree branches of all these decisions that could have been made, and complicate this even more. But I don't know if I'm against somebody leaving employment and starting their own business. I actually, again, my philosophy, my feeling is that competition is important, because the act and barrier to entry of businesses and running a business is difficult. And if you can thrive in that environment and still succeed and be considered competition, you've earned it. You've earned it. It's like in sports when you have two players competing against each other for that starting position. You've earned it. I don't know. That's my opinion. Whatever that's worth, right? Again, this is my YouTube, so I guess it's worth my YouTube. So let's listen to a couple of these stories. We heard from employees who, because of non-competes, were stuck in abusive workplaces. Okay, so that sucks. One person noted when an employer emerged with an organization whose religious principles conflicted with their own, a non-compete kept the worker locked in place and unable to freely switch to the job. So if it's some things where it affects your normal freedoms, yeah, then that non-compete should not exist. That should not. But again, that's sadly enough, that's where we would say that's where attorneys and the judicial and the legal system comes into play. Not just because there's a non-compete, but there's issues there from other citizen issues. These accounts, she said, pointed to the basic reality of how robbing people of their economic liberty also robs them of all sorts of other freedoms. The FTC estimates about 30 million people, or 1 in 5 American workers, from minimum wage earners to CEOs, are bound by non-competes. It says the policy change could lead to increased wages totaling nearly $300 billion per year by encouraging people to swap jobs. Okay, here's the reason right here. What does increased wages mean? What was it? What was it? That's right, taxes. Here you go. Here you go. This is the between the lines. Let's read between the lines. Here you go. Right there. That's why non-compete, this law has been passed right there. I could be wrong, but experience may say here's the motivating factor. Okay. Now, yes, let's go back to the heart-tugging stories of people that are being suppressed because this non-compete, and they can't build their life and blah, 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 blah. Okay. And they're not trying to be disrespectful or anything like that. I'm just saying it's lip service. It's lip service. It's America. Go do your thing. If you're in competition, then it's the old employer's responsibility to come and file suit against you. And then it's your job to and right to defend yourself and tell your story. If people feel handcuffed or weighed down by this document, it's because they don't understand, they haven't communicated to an attorney or somebody else about their options and what they can do. Plain and simple. The ban, which will affect later this year, takes into effect later this year, carves out an exception for existing non-competes that companies have given their senior executives on the grounds that these agreements are more likely to have been negotiated. The FTC says employers should not enforce other existing non-competes. Okay, so senior executives. All right, so these non-competes will continue to exist. the vote was 3-2 along party lines. The dissenting Commissioner Melissa Hollyoak and Andrew Ferguson argued that the FTC was overstepping the boundaries of its power. Hollyoak predicted the ban would be challenged in court and eventually struck down. It will be challenged. There's no prediction. It will be challenged. Plain and simple. Something this big will be challenged. When a decision is made, it affects two sides, a party that it benefits and a party that it hurts. There is balance in the universe. That's just plain and simple. That is capitalism. That is law. That is rules. It's just people benefit, people get hurt or don't benefit. So this will eventually be struck down. Maybe as it is now. But again, there will be revisions, and then there will be, okay, we're going to not allow non-competes here. So for example, senior executives, right? That may stay pat. Because if you're an employee working someplace and you go to the competition, then you've put the other employer, unless there's proven that the current employer that this senior executive is leaving, that there are grounds for this, right? And then again, that's where court comes into play, and the legal system says, yes, you may do it, right? So shortly after the vote, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce said it would sue the FTC to block the rule, calling it unnecessary, unlawful, and a blatant power grab. And it could be. Again, why? Right here, increased wages. Again, that's my opinion. For more than a year, the group has vigorously opposed the ban, saying the non-competes are vital to companies by allowing to better guard trade secrets and employees by giving employers greater incentives to invest workforce and training. So yes, I can agree, but trade secrets, they're in the agreements of employment. There should be some sort of documentation in there talking about intellectual property, that you not necessarily that you can't go work for somebody else, but you cannot use our intellectual property. If that is found, then yes, suit can be filed against not only the company that is using the new employee, but also the new employee. Okay, and that's IP law right now, intellectual property law right now. So trade secrets right now. So is it hard to govern? Sure it is. But in this type of situation, probably wouldn't be, because it'll be a focal point now. And so who wins in this battle? Well, the IRS, because they're going to get more tax revenue, and attorneys. They win in this battle. You're going to need attorneys to fight these agreements and these contracts. And depending on whatever happens with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the FTC. This decision has set dangerous precedents for government micromanaging of business and can harm employers. And I don't know. I don't know if I agree with this micromanaging. They're just saying you can't do non-competes, right? You can make the argument that non-competes could be micromanaging, right? So it's, again, two sides of the coin. But again, this is going to be fought in the legal system. And at the end of the day, whatever comes out, there's going to be two parties again. One that benefits, one that doesn't. And you'll know which party you are at that moment that it becomes an issue. Plain and simple. So anyways, I found this very interesting. This is something that we need to be aware of and think about as business owners, because really, as a business owner, everything you do is contractual. Everything you do, whether it's hire an employee, having a vendor, or bringing on a client and offering services, whatever it is, everything you do as an employer, as a business owner, is contractual. Everything you do as an employee is contractual. You sign a contract for employment. You need to know what your rights are and what they aren't, right? So transactions and contracts are what drive the agreements in this system. I once was told by a colleague that you have a good contract when both parties are dissatisfied but still agreed to the contract, right? Whether it is or it isn't, I don't know. But anyways, so hopefully this was helpful. Again, go down into the description, click on the economic termites link, purchase my book, learn about the four main termites, economic termites: taxes, inflation, time, and then laws and regulations, which is our politicians. It's a quick read, about 130 pages, maybe 140, I don't remember. But it's a thin book. My second book, also in the description, called Farming Assets. It's 100 pages. So using analogies to help describe and explain what all this stuff in this business ecosystem and universe means. And so So again, thanks so much for subscribing. If you're a subscriber, if you're not, man, what are you waiting for? Subscribe. We drop episodes every Thursday. Take care. God bless.